I never realized how cold a dream could feel, but everything around me felt so empty and frigid and blindingly bright. The shadow had returned, only this time I could feel a heat emanating from it. So I followed, through the farm, through the town, until I finally caught up and was engulfed in a warm embrace. Maybe it was because of my dream, but on this first day of winter, I remembered to head to the bus stop for my customary winter meet and greet with the friendly shadow guy. I'm still hoping to reach my 3 main goals of completing the community center, rooming with Krobus, and earning 1 million gold by the end of the year, all while boycotting the services of both Pierre and Joja Mart. It was Monday, and I lucked into the community center cleanup request on the special orders board. The reward if I complete this quest will come in very handy for tea sapling production. Since my extra pond was now occupied by midnight carp, I need Robin to build another to hold sturgeon for eventual caviar production. I was hoping to work on my relationship with the wizard, so I brought him a mushroom, and it was Krobus' birthday, so I brought him the gold quality void egg I'd saved for the occasion, bumping us up to 7 hearts. That afternoon, we got our missing crab from the ocean and turned in the final foraging bundle, fully completing the crafts room and leaving only the pantry and bulletin board for community center completion. Once back on the farm, I crafted a couple iridium sprinklers and planted down my winter forage seeds, then spent the night fishing up newly available winter fish to work on my collection, and did a little dance with the Junimos as they magicked the bridge back together. Willie gave me a squiddy fishing challenge the next morning, and I still needed to fish up trash in town for Linus, so the main task of the day is fishing. I figured I'd work on fish I was still missing for the collection, so I started out in the sewers, where I caught the mutant carp, then to the forest to not catch the glacier fish, and later made my way to the ocean for some evening squid fishing. Willie was just leaving the saloon when I was heading home, so I made sure to hand over the squid. Wednesday morning was more of the same, though this time I headed to the mines to fish up the ice pip, then attempted to find the elusive lava eel. And while the eel did, in fact, elude me, I collected enough trash to toss it into the bin at the train station. Time was running out for the year, and I came to the conclusion that completing the community center was not in the cards for year 1, so I set my sights on year 2 and reaching perfection? I have to give it a little more thought, but for now, I thought I'd work a bit on shipping one of each item I could to see where we're at year's end. The next morning, I continued shipping random items. Linus sent me the fiber seed recipe for completing his special order, and I made my first batch to plant alongside my winter forage crops for winter tea sapling production. Speaking of Linus, I accidentally caught him taking a polar plunge on my way to grab the golden scythe in the quarry mines. And then it was on to the desert mines for the evening in search of Omni Geodes, and to slay some ghosts per a request from the wizard. That night, Krobus asked me a pretty uncomfortable question, so I just bought my seeds and got out of there as quickly as possible. My midnight carp were hankering for a bug snack the morning of day 89, and after tossing them into the pond, I headed to the mountain lake for some morning fishing and caught a sturgeon to occupy my latest pond. Just before noon, I stopped to see Krobus and purchased the recipes he had. Then it was on to the traveling cart, where I picked up a few wild horseradish. I had a few new donations for Gunther, and later that night, I planted a second patch of fiber seeds on my southern farm. Saturday morning, Clint asked me to gift Emily for him, and we'd become cordial enough this run that I wasn't even annoyed he didn't actually send me the amethyst. I did my weekly Maki check with Krobus, and he had a few Dish of the Sea I couldn't pass up. Then I jetted off to the desert for a day-long dive in the mines. I didn't reach any treasure floors, but found a prismatic shard on floor 53, and staircased my way to floor 100 only 20 minutes before pass-out time. Glug glug, yummy milk. Somehow, I managed to make it to bed before passing out that night. On day 91, Pierre stopped by, and he didn't seem to notice that I'd been boycotting him all year. I'd picked up a request from Gus for an amethyst, and I still needed to give one to Emily on Clint's behalf, so I made a mental note to bring a few to the saloon later that night. But first, to the cart and general disappointment. What wasn't disappointing was my daily chat with Krobus. We were on 8 hearts, so I'd need to get a move on if I wanted a roommate by end of year. Next, I gifted Caroline a green tea for her birthday as a little thank you for the tea saplings, and got Clint to work opening a good quantity of Omni Geodes for the few gems I was missing. Speaking of missing, I needed to keep trying for the glacier fish if I didn't want to miss out on catching them this year. After a few failed attempts, I was finally victorious. This fish collection is looking pretty good. I found Abigail lurking outside of the wizard's tower, and Razzle Dazzle basically told me he knows she's there and is okay with it. I was hanging out in the mines when I remembered my amethyst delivery, so I raced to the saloon, but it had just closed when I arrived. I was able to hand over the gems to Emily, but had missed out on the friendship and extra coin from Gus. My first batch of winter crops was ready on day 92, and I worked at filling out the shipping collection some more before heading into town for this week's special order requests. Let's just say I was excited to see Robin's resource rush, as I could always use the wood, and the trees I'd planted in the desert should be mostly grown. But first, I had an ice fishing competition to win. And win I did, though I barely had enough bag space to hold my prizes. Before heading to bed that night, I started working on Robin's resource rush by clearing out the trees I'd planted seasons ago in the northern pass. Tuesday morning, my sturgeon had champagne wishes and I had caviar dreams, so I tossed a diamond into the pond before harvesting my second batch of winter forage. Then headed to the desert for a fun-filled day of re-desertation. By 2 p.m., I'd met my wood quota, but still had trees to cut, so I stayed there until evening, even taking some time to replant what I'd cut down and then some. I made it to the saloon in time for Taco Tuesday, and while there, I picked up all the recipes Gus had in stock. I've been making pretty good progress on shipments, and since it looked like we're going into year 2 for the community center, I figured I might as well consider going for perfection too, but that would take a bit more consideration. Robin sent me the stone chest recipe, and I was pretty close to needing 200 void essence to purchase the void ghost pendant for Krobus, so I headed to the desert and saw I had more than enough. Now I just need us to reach 10 hearts. While here, I decided to hop in for a quick cavern dive. I headed back to the valley in time to bring Sebastian a birthday tear, and while in the area, stopped by to check on my monster eradication goal progress. Then it was to the mines in search of bugs, as I still haven't seen an ancient seed. My first batch of farm fiber was ready on day 95, and I took over that area to make more room for winter forage seeds. Then it was back to Skull Cavern for the day, as I'm still on the Omni Geode gem grind, and coming across secret notes was a bonus. I got another bonus red cabbage seed that was needed for the shipping collection, and made sure to stop in before bedtime to see Krobus and purchase his stock of mixed seeds. Mixed seeds are an important crafting ingredient if I want to keep a good batch of fiber plants going. And since it was Friday, I took my fruitless frolic to see the merchant's wares, then on to the desert, where I found a prehistoric floor to work on the dino slaying goal. Time for a happy hooty winter 13th. This is actually a perfect spot for this little guy. Speaking of spots, I dug up a note spot and got myself the strange doll that I turned into the museum. That's 87 if you're keeping track at home. And then it was back to Skull Cavern for notes and dinos and eggs, oh my! Mail on the morrow reminded me that the night market starts tomorrow, and visiting this festival every night will be extremely important for reaching perfection. But before I get ahead of myself, it's Sunday, so I need to do my cart check to see if a tomato, apple, or maki roll are in stock. To cheer myself up, I brought Krobus his Sunday void egg, and we became best friends. Heck yeah. That means, dun-da-da, to the mines! Oh, and I did make sure to grab the void ghost pendant from the desert trader that I offered to Krobus in these sleepy hours. I've never lived with Krobus before, so I'm pretty interested to see how it differs from the typical Stardew marriage. He said he'll be at the farm in a few days, so I guess we'll see. I'm excited. Monday morning means a new special order request, and you know I'm not helping out Pierre, so fishing for Demetrius it is. Next, I had Clint crack a few dozen geodes, but with all that, I had no new items for the museum. I spent my afternoon fishing in the mountain lake, working on the biome balance quest while hoping for relics in treasure chests. I headed to the docks just as the night market opened, and my first stop was to the traveling cart boat for a bonus chance at disappointment. Then on to the most important boat at the market if I have any hope of reaching perfection without too much Pierre interference. I'd been selling enough tea saplings over the past few days to ensure I had funds to cover all the spring seeds I'd need for the next year. I wanted the option to complete Lewis's crop order, so I made sure to grab extra cauliflower, green beans, and potatoes in case those were among the crops he requested. My final market stop was to the submarine in search of the midnight squid, spookfish with a creepy sunken doll, and last but not least, the blobfish. With my night market fishing completed night 1, I headed down to see what dialogue Krobus had after accepting the pendant, and I have to admit, he's not wrong, but I'm okay with the consequences of my choices. Then I gussied up the farm a bit in anticipation of my new house guest, and yes, I know he'll probably never be outside to see it. We've reached day 100, but far from through, and I've got a lot of organizing to do. Then off to the desert, quick as a pill, to find the strange doll at the top of the hill, and into the cavern till night market time. I'm not really sure why I've made this day rhyme, but I picked up a picture and got all my seeds. Oh, the traveling merchant, she had nothing I need. Back home, placed the mermaid portrait on the wall, and now all that's missing are a few seeds for fall. My house had a fancy new addition the next morning, and that means unlimited Krobus hugs! It wasn't looking like I'd meet any of my other goals for the year, but let's be honest, this was the most important one. The bats got Krobus and I a housewarming gift in the form of the 2 apples I'm missing for the fodder bundle. Heck yeah! I seem to have added the 10 hay to the silo, but luckily it was Wednesday so I could purchase more from Marnie, allowing me to officially complete the fodder bundle for a spare heater. I spent the afternoon at the mountain lake finishing up the quest for Demetrius, and donated the final doll to the museum collection. Then headed to the night market just as it was opening, where I spent a massive 50,000 gold on fall seeds for next year. I couldn't pass up the pretty painting, so I bought it off Lupini before checking out the mermaid show and earning my prize pearl. I drew Gus as my secret friend for this year's festival, and I couldn't be happier. After taking care of farm chores, I rearranged my chest and had a look at all the seeds I'd picked up for the following year. And since the night market was no longer in town, I headed for Skull Cavern for an afternoon dive, as these dino floors are really helpful for eradication goals. I'd already seen her a few times this week, but I checked with the traveling merchant anyhow for my typical bad news. Then met up with a friendly bear, brought the wizard a void essence, then went home for a satisfying scything session. Sandy needed a diamond, so I delivered, then continued on with monster eradication goals in the desert cave. Just before bed, I reseeded the fiber field as time was running out to earn that cool million in the first year. Saturday the 20th, I took a lap around town for forageables, then found myself back in Skull Cavern killing monsters and taking eggs. Robin requested some hardwood the next day, and I figured 10 pieces wasn't too big an ask. And it was about now I realized I sold my only poppy weeks ago. Yep, keep checking that chest past me. It's not in there. But I can grow another along with that missing tomato. The sturgeon requested a few maple syrup, so I obliged, then took my obligatory Sunday trudge to the traveling cart.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Acquiring the tomato means the greenhouse will be open, and that means I can grow the other missing ingredients. To complete the community center, I'll essentially need rice and a poppy. But first, I had some extra coin to spend, and if I'm heading into year 2 this run, I'll be needing some more piggies. I picked up blackberry, mint, chamomile, Earl Grey, English, and lavender. Yeah, I spelled that one wrong. I need cloth to build a mill to process the rice to make the maki roll, but I'm lacking pine tar, so I'll have to get the cloth off mummies in the mines. But first things first, consider that pantry complete. Then onto the mines for the 4 pieces of cloth needed for mill construction. My final stop for the night was to the Statue of Uncertainty. My thought was to reset farming to agriculturalist for the bonus crop growth speed. That in combination with deluxe speed grow should allow both the poppy and rice to finish in the greenhouse in time to complete the community center by the end of the year. And while the Junimos did fix up the greenhouse with their special magic overnight, I may have made a slight miscalculation with my profession reset. Wait, what? Oh no. I'm not level 10 farming, am I? Oh shoot. The next morning, I continued on with my plan, crafting a good batch of speed grow that would be used inside the greenhouse. Before I got to planting, I made sure to commission the mill, as Robin would be hard to catch tomorrow if I missed her today. And since it was Monday, I headed to the special order board to pick up a quest from the Razman. After setting up my greenhouse with sprinklers, I planted a poppy and rice in plots coated in deluxe speed grow, then filled the rest of the greenhouse with winter forage seeds, as I had plans for a large tea sapling shipment once my fiber was done. To have time for another batch of forage, I planted wild seeds with a touch of speed grow to help out. Then spent my evening in the mines, still looking for that elusive ancient seed, switching over to geode crushing when I bored of killing bugs. I managed to turn in enough gems to receive a magic rock candy as reward, and spent the night in the mines trying to find the ghostie holding onto ectoplasm. Lewis reminded me the Winter Star Feast was tomorrow, so I needed to think about a gift for Gus. It seems my silo is out of hay due to the influx of piglets, so I made sure to stop by Marnie to pick up enough hay for the rest of the season. And since all my crops were covered by sprinklers, I asked Clint for the final watering can upgrade, before bringing Robin the hardwood she requested. Then on to the mines, where I lucked into the ectoplasmic ghost the wizard was asking for before it got too late. On the day of the winter feast, I gave Krobus a gold quality void egg because, let's be honest, he's my real secret friend. In return, he gave me a star drop? Truly, this is the best gift ever. After some light farm chores, I made my way to the center of town, where I handed a diamond over to my other secret pal, Gus. Turns out Marnie was my gift giver this year, and eggs are no star drop, but I can definitely use them for recipes. I spent some time after the festival farming fiber in the mines because I had a lot of tea saplings needing crafting. Evelyn taught me how to make a garden pot on the morning of day 110, and Gus was in need of an albacore. We'd be at 10 hearts quickly with him at this gifting and questing rate. Most of my fiber was done growing, so I scythed it up before heading to gift Clint an amethyst for his birthday. Then picked up my watering can and asked Clint to upgrade my hoe as well. I decided to still check the traveling merchant in case she had a maki roll for me, but she did not, and the rest of the night I worked on an oak resin farm since kegs would be key for profits in the coming year. Saturday morning meant my poppy was ready along with a large batch of winter forage, but my rice wouldn't be harvestable for another day at least. With the winter seeds, I made over 100 tea saplings, bringing my total for this run to an impressive 960 saplings crafted. And the Krobus stand-in had farmer's lunch on sale. They're no maki rolls, but I'll take them. I had a lot of empty speed grow plots in the greenhouse, so I bought some starfruit seeds from Sandy and made sure to plant them first thing when I returned to the valley. I brought Gus his albacore at the saloon, and while there, picked up the pepper popper he had in stock. I was still hoping to earn 1 million gold, so I shipped a batch of excess gems, along with a few fish I thought I wouldn't need. I am pretty set on playing this run into year 2, otherwise I would just empty my chest and be done with it. I crafted an oil maker to start making truffle oil, and went to bed early that night, wondering what the final day of winter and this year had in store for us. On the final morning of year 1, I gave Krobus his daily present and hug, before getting to work clearing out my last batch of winter forage. My rice was ready, so after I scythed it up, I tossed it into the mill for processing. Then scythed up my last batch of fiber for the season. The traveling cart had no maki rolls, but that was fine. I was resigned to my day-late community center fate. I picked up my hoe from Clint, as it would be severely needed tomorrow when spring sprung, and at 30 minutes to noon, I remembered I hadn't snagged my giant Junimo pal this run, so I raced over to the playground, barely making it in time to find the jolly green giant hiding out in the bushes. I crafted 95 more tea saplings, bringing my total crafted to over 1,050, and while I could probably head to the mines for more fiber and more profits, I don't want to rush about like mad on this final day like I normally would. Instead, I took a trip to see Robin and bought not 1, not 2, not 3, 4, or 5, but 6 stacks of wood before the price increased tomorrow. And for the rest of the night, I got ready for the coming year by planting fiber seeds, decorating farm features, and heading down to the saloon to gift as many townsfolk as possible before the whirlwind of spring started tomorrow. And it was at the bar I stayed until closing time, deliberating what I discovered about myself and the town throughout this boycotting year. So, all in all, we only completed 1 out of 3 goals, but if you ask me, it was the most important of them all, as I felt a special joy with every happy morning hug. My final dream of the year was of the snow melting, allowing the true beauty of the forest farm to shine through. And as I left the farm, running through the fresh spring grass towards the town center, I did so with a song in my heart and a plan in my head.